Yeah, and the password is one for the computer.
Okay, because it goes down, you say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, you're on the screen.
Look, mommy, I'm on TV.
Hey, how
Right?
are you?
Okay, Hilchos Chometz Matzah Perek Beis. Are you? Is it in front of you?
No.
Is it? No, it's on the side. Not good. Sit over here. Sit over here. Oh, okay. Yeah. Sit there. Hilchos Chometz Matzah Perek Beis Halacha Aleph. Yes, we talk. Is a positive commandment lahashbis to destroy. What exactly destroy means, we'll see in a second. Put the lahashbis in quotations. Chometz claim is destroy the chometz before the time this arrives. According to the Rambam, you have to make sure the chometz is destroyed prior to Chatzeis Hayom. You can't just say Chatzeis Hayom is here. Now I'm going to stand up and go to the mitzvah of your chometz. You have to ensure it's destroyed prior. That's the Rambam's opinion. It says by Yom Rishon on the first day, you shall destroy the chometz from your house. On the first day, he does not mean the first day of Pesach. As an old tradition, we know this Rishon, this first, is the 14th of Nisan, not the 15th. Right, proof to this is Mashakos Material. The Torah writes, don't shech the korban Pesach with chametz. Because I mean to say, you can't shech the korban Pesach when chametz is still present. The earliest time to shech the korban Pesach theoretically is Chatzeis Hayom at the moment of midday on Yudalid, which means you see that you have to destroy the chametz on Yudalid. You can't wait till Tesvav. Halacha Beis. What exactly is this destruction? It means you nullify it in your heart the Yachshav offer, and you consider it. There's a word, you designate it as a better word for that. Designate, but you make it like by you in your mind it is like dust.
He says over here it says consider.
Consider. Okay, good. The
I was going to say that.
Yeah,
But Yachshav means that's
okay. There's a better way to come to me. Okay, you actually believe it. You also believe it too. You think in your heart. There's no chametz in my domain. I have a loaf of bread sitting on the table. Doesn't make a difference. There's no chametz in my domain. It doesn't exist to me. So it's a psychological process of devaluation. And all the chametz's domain is like dust. Has no need. It's unnecessary. It has no relevance. It's like bottled metzias. So this doesn't mean becoming a hefker. That is a separate thing. But it does become hefker when you make it this type of worthlessness. So the destruction is not the gather, it's not the metzias of being mafkirit. But when you machshav it, when you consider it, you classify it in your head as this worthless state, that does make it become hefker. Okay. Halacha Gimel. Umidivri Seif, now Chacham came along and they said, to search after the chametz in the crevices, in the cracks, and to inspect and to search, to remove it, they call fully from to all your boundaries, all your borders, from your domain. The chametz to be safe, and also the mitzvah of chachamim. So in other words, you can have chametz on your house, on your table on Pesach, as long as you don't eat it or benefit from it. The chacham don't allow it. And not only can you not have it on your table, you have to go search for it in places you don't know. I don't know if any chametz in my attic. It doesn't make a difference. If you went up there once, you see you have to go look for it. The chametz to be safer. The Chacham also decreed that you have to inspect or search and ensure the chametz at night, the night of Arba Asar, by the candlelight. Now, if the zman of not being allowed to own chametz ma'atayr is Yud Daled at Chatzeis, and Mid'Arbanan it's in 11 a.m. on Yud Daled, why the night before do I have to show the chametz? I have to show it in the morning, Yud Daled. Because at nighttime everyone is found in their homes. And therefore, if they make the mitzvah to destroy it then, people are not going to forget. They'll make sure that more likely of a chance it will happen. The haner yof the vedika and the light of the candle. That's because it's good. It's good to check in crevices and cracks by candlelight. During the daytime, you have light. Apparently, according to the Rambam in the Gemara, it's not even a candle by daytime doesn't have the same impact of. There's one of the right, exactly. What is the candle in daylight is relevant. There's one of the Rishon in the Gemara says that they were in a cave and they couldn't see daylight. It was so deep in the cave you couldn't tell. But when the candle light was more potent, they knew it was nighttime. So that's one of the. You see that it could be that a portion at nighttime the candle is brighter. The aim claim of midrash also because in the mitzvah of the you don't establish a shear. So no Rambam shear.
I was going to say no. We'll do it earlier.
Right. Well, this year Pesach Shabbos, but yeah, not Thursday night because chametz topic. So no, it's Rambam earlier. Okay. You can't make a medrash, a Torah study session On the day of Gimel, towards the end of the day, leading into Dalet, even a person who knows how to learn on his own, if I'm Chacham, should not begin to learn. Apparently, even read Teresh B'Chsav, it says Likres, right? It's additionalist. At this time, Shem Yimashich, he's going to get drawn out after Berlin. And he's going to refrain from Shoshing the Chometz at the beginning of his time. So Lavdaf, he'll forget to check Chometz the whole night. He'll do it later. He's supposed to do the mitzvah as soon as possible. Therefore, in that consideration, you shouldn't establish a Talmud there at that time. You don't check the Chometz by the moonlight, nor by sunlight, nor by the light of a torch. A candle, because a torch is large and you're afraid to put it in small cracks. The mezbah when this is applied, you have like small holes and cracks in hidden places. What if you have a sun porch, which is a lot of exposure to the sun? It has a lot of light, so it's not someone's in a room with a window. It's b'chlal a whole empty wall on an achsadra. It's like 3 walls and an open wall on the fourth side. There's a lot of light there. If you did check it by candlelight, actually by sunlight, that's sufficient. Now, you can't do that. Why not? Because you're supposed to check it on the nighttime, right? But if you didn't, if you checked it the next day, you checked it in the daytime of Yidalid, that's sufficient. Or perhaps even if you check it your gimel or any prior date by sunlight in the daytime, that's also sufficient. Now, you're supposed to make sure to leave a place unchecked for Yidalid at nighttime, which is this man of the checking. But if you do check it by the sunlight during any previous day, and you make sure to Chometz in, you don't have to check again your Dalet because your light then was adequate light. The middle of a courtyard does not require a Chometz to check for Chometz. You have to go over the entire area of the courtyard, only in the edges. Because the birds are hanging out over there. Whatever Chometz falls, that they will eventually eat. Now, I imagine that if you brought Chometz there, a lot of Chometz, and you give them in the morning, it wasn't eaten up. The idea is that whatever Chometz throughout the course of the year goes there, you can assume it got eaten up. Back then you had a house and the walls were thick, and often you had these like the indentations that went through and through. Just that was your shelf. You didn't have a shelf. You just had a hole in the wall. So the holes that are in the middle of the house, and empty just doesn't mean the wall. It means it's not like high up on the ceiling or down close to the floor. So it's not high. It's lower. It's higher than 3 tefachim, and it's lower than where you can reach it potentially. Between 2 people. This one on this side has to reach. Has to touch Chometz as far as you can reach. The other one on his side searches as far as he can reach. The Ashar, any Chometz you can't reach that you may have thrown there or got bothered by a mouse, you believe in your heart, and that is sufficient. However, you have a.
Are you missing that?
No, I don't have it. What does it say? Any place. Yeah, right. No, it doesn't say over here. Okay, so any place you open Chometz does not require a b'dikah. Right. Okay. So in other words, it's not a chayk that you have to go look on Chometz. It's because of the possibility of Chometz being brought there. So if you have a Pesach kitchen, obviously you pashas, you wouldn't have to. Rabbi Leshes, I think, once told somebody that the Pesach kitchen, people they go during the year, they store eggs there. You have to check there also. Okay. However, a hole which is in the wall between the Yid and the Goy, ain't nobody declare that you don't check. Even though you use it during the year and you may have put Chometz there. Shema Yemar Hakum, maybe the Goy is going to say, what does it say? Shema Yemar Hanachi, what does it say about you? Really? Can't see? Let me get the
3 or 4.
1 second. So it's just halacha hey, right?
Yeah. It's on top.
Wow, goodness. So this is interesting. So let me read to you this whole piece that the Rambam apparently this is a later nusach. The Rambam changed things. Here's let me read to you what it says over here. Right? The Chorshim is still active, the hole between the Yid and the Goy in the wall. Maybe it's in the later halacha. So anybody declare that you don't check it. Shem Yemakim, unless the Goy say, who is he's making witchcraft to me. That's enough. You're not looking to endanger yourself and anger the Goy the possibility of harming you for Bia Chometz. Because again, biblically, you just biblically is sufficient. So therefore, for checking it, you don't have to injure yourself.
Yeah,
now it says any place you don't Chometz, you don't require b'dikah. Okay, so this piece, down the Chayr and the Maskana holds that I don't know, maybe we're not chush for that because I never noticed this. Good. I mean, it's a
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, fine.
You keep going.
Okay, so above. You have the hole in the wall which is very low down or very high up. The Gagliatzia or a roof or a balcony. Refus bucker or a barn. The lulin or a chicken coop. A place where you store hay. The a place where you store wine or oil. Anything that you don't use, you store it, and you don't actually use it during a meal. Based on the dalim or a place where they store large fish. Doesn't require large fish that have been often salted and preserved. That you don't check for chametz. You don't have to check for chametz. Unless you know you brought chametz there. These are places where the presumption is you can go there during a meal to get some wine or some oil or any of these things. They're just there for when you need a large amount or before the week. Let's say you go there, take a barrel out. But during the meal, you're in the middle of eating, go with a piece of bread in your hand to these type of places. Presumably does not happen. Therefore, it's not considered a place where you bring a chametz. However, a place where you store beer, a place where you store wine that you do use during the meal. Based on the dalim, a place where there's place where you store small fish. Based on where you store wood. And you're in the middle of cooking, you want to bring some more wood to the fire. Then you just turn the dial up. That can go get more wood. Based on a place where you store brine, which is like a fish juice. And holes in the middle of the wall in similar type situations, which chametz may be. They require inspection. Check the chametz. The assumption is it's a place where chametz has been brought, and once you know chametz was brought there, or you assume chametz was brought there, you cannot make it a place where you want Pesach unless you take it out of that category by making an inspection. If you know for sure that chametz was never brought there, and it's a chadika, then you don't need a search. Halacha zayin.
What does it mean? What does that mean?
So the pashtus, it means that it's not so high up that you couldn't reach it on a normal circumstance. So probably no chametz there, and it's not so low that you wouldn't bend down to put it there unless you have the small kids in the house.
Didn't we cover that already before?
Yeah, the chayr is being repetitious. That's very true.
And over here he also adds Shabeda Kamata, Breda Command State Students and the same shit.
So here
That's the Mishnah, no?
Yeah. So
Right, but I'm saying he
didn't mention it.
So here the Rambam says it later. Interesting. He's saying it next halacha. He's going to say
Which couple do you have? Oh, you have this.
Yeah, this is the standard Rambam. That's
Standard, yeah.
Let me change this one just to make sure I'm on the same page.
No, it's okay. It's fine. It's fine.
So
It's
why
fine.
one with this healthy? That's fine.
So why is this different? Because this is the ksav yad from the
This is
Yemen.
Kappa. This is
Kappa,
It's
exactly.
kappa, but that's kappa too.
No, this
This
is
is
standard. The
that's
standard nusach of Frank or whatever. The standard nusach Rambam that you have in most Rambams.
The English. I thought it was a take. I thought this was
I don't think-
translation
no.
on the kappa.
No, I don't think so. No, this is the standard literature. Yeah. Okay.
But that was not by Lubavitch. How come he didn't follow the kappa edition?
Why? What's Lubavitch about kapach?
No, because that's the one that Rabbi used. That was
No, the Rebbe used the Lam.
And that's Kappa.
There's
No,
videos of
no, it's
them,
not.
Lam.
Yeah. No, kapach.
Rambam is not kappa.
Kapach Savia became popular recently. It's not, Yeah. Again, I mentioned before that the things he changed, the Rambam changed, in his later editions, and the question is, does that how that change halacha? The back of the sikha.
So this is the line. Okay, got it.
In B'chal, it's a question: what do you do when you find a ksav yad? Because you find a new rajma that no one ever had in the shema somewhere where you change his psak. Does that change halacha today? It's not. Alter Rebbe did it, but he did certain kulos on Pesach actually, because the Alter Rebbe's level you could do that. But sometimes people are not so simple to do it. All right, halacha vav, yeah. Oh. So the holes in the house, both that are above and below. I'm sorry.
No, the end of the last two lines.
Right. When you check the so when you check the wine cellar, now a wine cellar is full of barrels ceiling to floor, so you can't start krichin. It's not possible to go back there, which is okay because you probably never you can't brought the chametz anyways, right? So now a mouse could have gone to me, but you don't have to do chesed for that. So therefore, you check when you take wine during the meal, you go from the most external layer which you can reach. And the ones on top, you go top down. And there's a reason for that. I think it's the fact.
You're going to go get from the top. You're
Right.
not going to pull a barrel from the bottom.
Right. It also says that the spoil's on top first, so therefore you want to use it first. You want before it has vinegar. I think could be I'm wrong, but that's practical question also. So the two top, on the external level, on the external layer, the two top ones. So you want to the top and lower than it. Yeah, right. The first Bisham Sachem is okay. Halacha Zayin. You don't have to worry about, listen, I'm not going to check on Pesach kitchen. I don't put chametz in there. Maybe a mouse brought chametz in there. You don't have to be choshesh for that. Even if you brought it from one room to another, one house to the other, maybe, and then you're going to see the whole city. Then even if
Everything falls under suspicion.
even if I say, you know what, this whole city, no chametz was ever brought in this new city. It's a brand new city we built. Doesn't make a difference. Maybe a mouse brought from the other city. In other words, the point that I'm saying is that he's going to be chayshish, but he brings a mouse brought the chametz. One place to another, you can never have.
Right. From the neighboring states.
Right. So other Rishonim learn this Gemara that after you check for chametz, check again. Maybe a mouse brought the chametz from another house. Because that's the Rambam talking about before
It
bringing it.
becomes a double inside.
Right. The aim of a safe, there's no end to the matter, so it's not a practical thing to be chayshish. The Badakli Alba also, you check chametz on the night of the 14th. If you have a chalas and you set aside 10 pieces for tomorrow's lunch, or breakfast rather. I mean, Rambam's not talking about the minig of put down 10 pieces of chametz for the search. That wasn't the minig back then apparently, at least not yet. It's from Rabbi, I believe. So in any event, he left aside 10 pieces of chametz for the next day. You find
Why is it after using the same number though?
Yeah, good question. I don't know.
That's interesting. And second,
I think the Gemara is that.
why would you remember how much he's living for breakfast?
Because the chayr, if I can, you want to be very specific. Yeah, this is how much you use tomorrow.
We're approaching place like
The chayr. Yeah. Now you find 9 pieces in the place in the cabinet where you left the chametz. There's a chayshish, then you have to be chayshish. A mouse taka did drag it because you see clearly it's missing. We're talking
Maybe
about
someone got Bill and I made it.
Yeah, so you have to check a second time. Obviously, a mouse or a weasel took it somewhere. So that takes the whole house out of the cheskes. Now, is this talking about this halacha where you have to check again because you have to be chayshish? We're talking about a case, and the same question goes to the next halacha. Halacha ches to gimel. These cases where you did bittul, you did not do bittul. So some people on the Rambam, all the cases are where we're talking about the person was mavatal. That's why there are certain kulas. If you didn't do bittul, the kulas don't apply. Only the chumas apply. Others say if I can't, the Rambam case you did not do bittul, and that's why the chumas apply. If you did bittul, these chumas don't apply. So you can learn it from both ways. So all right,
So between the bittul and the actual avoid of searching it out, you're going to be okay.
So yeah. Well, it depends. Right. So if you'll know them like that, you'll be but yes. Still, even so, if you do nowadays you do bittul. So therefore, some people. So we have to do bittul and we do bdika. So many people will say that the Rambam's chumash over here, where he says in this case of stuff you have to check again. We don't have to because the Rambam's talking about a case where you're just doing the bdika, not the bittul. So that's the two ways of doing the Rambam. But let's see. Okay. You saw a mouse go into a house and the mouse had a piece of chametz in its mouth. This is after the piece of chametz had to be at least kazayas, otherwise you don't care, right? So this is after you check the chametz. You must check a second time because now there's chametz in your house somewhere. Even though you go inside and check, you find crumbs. Now you can't assume the mouse already ate the piece of bread in this place. There's crumbs over here. You can't be chayshish that because mice don't necessarily leave crumbs always. So therefore, it's not dafek from the mouse. It could be different chametz. The mouse deposited in a hole or in a window. And these crumbs were here prior here. You must check again. If you don't find anything, you should check the entire house. If once you find that piece of bread, you don't have to check anymore. You don't say, well, you know what, maybe there's a different piece of bread. Could be the mouse put the piece of bread somewhere else. When you find the piece of bread after the dika, you can assume that was the piece of bread that the mouse put down. Test. These are all cases where you checked and now there's a suffix. A new doubt was brought up. And you have t-shirts, I'm sorry, test. You have a baby, you saw a baby, that went into the house, but that already was checked. We only kicker and it had a piece of chametz in its hand, or a cookie. The child's not old enough to ask, obviously. You go in after him, and what's up? You find crumbs. And it's up, you have to check. The assumption is the child ate that chametz, and these crumbs, fell from his mouth while he was eating it. It is the normal fashion of a child to make crumbs when he eats. But the mice does not do that, though. Therefore, by the mouse, the crumbs are no right. You don't find any crumbs at all, so you have to check again. So you have to go through the whole house. You go inside.
Maybe the kid left.
Right, exactly. Maybe the kid left it somewhere else. Person, let us set aside 9. Again, remember back then, chametz and matzah were very similar. It was just a pita you threw in the oven, and it was baked out every 17 minutes or 19 minutes. So you have 9 pieces of 9 piles of matzah. Ve'echad shel chametz, and one is chametz. Ba'ach v'notal, and that mouse came to one of the piles and it took a piece of bread, but it's leavened or unleavened. We don't know if it was took from the matzah from the chametz. If he went to a house, it was already checked before. So I believe we have to check again. Why is it check again? There's 9 piles of 9 piles. You should 10 piles of bread. 9 is unleavened bread, and 1 is leavened. Why checking again? That's matzah. The answer is shekol kavua. Anytime the suffix is established in its original location, kamechza al mechza, you look at it as 50-50. It's 9-1. No, we look at the ratio. It's 5-5. Classic example is when you're buying meat from the store, and you forgot, where did I buy this meat? There's 9 kosher butcher shops, 1 not kosher, and the suffix began when you bought it. So therefore, it's in its makom kavua, and its place was established. The halacha is, even though it's 9 are kosher, you have to make a suffix, and you can't eat it. If you find a piece on the street, so if in that city there's 9 kosher butcher shops, 1's treif, you go basarei, you can eat it. Because the suffix, because the suffix over there did not begin in the makom kavua. It began already in transit, rather than kavua. Therefore, you go after the treif. In this case, though, you can't go after the treif because the suffix began in its actual pile. Good. Yeah, the person left aside.
2 piles.
I'm sorry, I said it already. You have 2 piles. One is chametz, one is matzah. You have 2 houses. Now, these are all cases Rambam is going to tell us in the end. You don't have to check a second time. So you have 2 piles, 1 chametz, 1 matzah, 2 houses, 1 was checked, 1 was not checked. 2 mice, along come 2 mice. One takes a piece of chametz, 1 piece of matzah. We don't know into which house the one that took the chametz went. It seems that we don't know either which one took the one that took the matzah went. But then we definitely don't know in which one the one that took the chametz, which house he entered.
We know one house is not chametz, but we don't know which.
No, we know which house wasn't checked. We don't know which house the mouse went into, though.
No, we have 2 mice. 1 took in chametz, 1 took in a matzah.
Right.
So we're going with the example of the one that took in the chametz into one of the 2 houses.
Right, and we also know B'Pasha, the one who took the other mouse. No, we know both mice didn't go in the same house. Now, why is that important? Who cares about those? There's a reason for that. I believe that's the case. Okay. You have 2 houses, both were checked, and 1 pile which is chametz. So a mouse came and took the piece. Then you do a bias nichlas. He does it. We don't know which house he went into. We know he did go into one of the houses. And you know which one he went into. Then you went after the mouse with badak and you checked. You didn't find anything in that house. Or you checked and you found the kikar. And the question is this a different kikar or is this the one the mouse brought? You have 9 piles of matzah and only one of chametz. But 1 piece of chametz rolled away from the pile into a separate location. So it's not kavur anymore. They do it in chametz and matzah. We don't know if it's chametz or if it's matzah. Even though there's 9 of matzah, the rave is kosher, so to speak, but we don't know. And then when mouse came along, took that 1 piece which already rolled away, and once it rolled away, we don't know already where it is. So the suffix began when it's not kavur. In these cases, you don't need to check a second time. In kan kavur, there's no established issue. The suffix did not begin in makom kavur. Using debates. Now we're talking about cases where you do have to check again. You put chametz the next day after in this corner. You find a different corner. So it's the same chametz, it's a different chametz. If it's the same chametz, it's fine. If it's different chametz, different problem. Because now you don't know where the other chametz is. Right?
The house is not who moved it.
Yeah, no, that's not who moved it. The question is it the same chametz? If it's the same chametz, who cares if it's the right corner, left corner? Big deal. If I know you moved it near there, it's fine. But the question is maybe this is a different chametz, different mouse brought, and the other chametz is somewhere else. You put down 9 pieces for the next day breakfast, you find 10. Now, for sure, there's a new piece of chametz here. The question is the whole thing could be different. We don't know. If the other 9 are the original one, that's not a problem. But the question is, we don't know if they are. It definitely was a change over here. Or a mouse came and took the chametz. As the suffix of b'chlau into the house did not go in. In all these cases, you do have to search again. So in this case, we have a suffix, the mouse went in or not. In other cases, you have something to be told on that the mouse went into the house that was not checked yet. So I'll check that house, not the house that was checked, for example. There's a place for the suffix to go, so to speak. Over here, we have a case a mouse took chametz. We don't know if the chal went in or not, so we can't have any situation where we can sort of put the chametz in a conception in a place where I wouldn't have to check, and therefore I have to check again. Okay, you give. This is like the Gemaras with Rosh Hashivas have all their they show off all their lumdas. So yeah. Okay, nichnas achval abayis and kikar b'fit. A mouse goes into a house and you see it has a piece of bread in its mouth. The yatsa achval misham b'fit, and a mouse came out with a piece of bread in its mouth or chametz in its mouth. You can assume who are rishon shenichnas. That's the one that went in. Who are achas yatsa? He's the same one that went out. It is a little therefore I do not need to check again. But if the mouse when the first was black, the yatsa sham love when the man out was white. So obviously, I have to check again. I can't assume it's the same mouse. Maybe the mouse gave it to somebody else, to another mouse. They share bread, whatever, but you can't be sure. The mouse goes into one house and already checked the chametz, and it has a piece of chametz in its mouth. And the weasel comes out, and the weasel now has the chametz in its mouth. It's the same piece of chametz. So I have to check again. I can't know for sure if it's the same piece. Could be the weasel had their own chametz. If the weasel comes out with the mouse and the chametz in the weasel's mouth, even though the mouse in the weasel's mouth doesn't have the chametz in its mouth, the weasel has both. And so like, I don't need to check again. This is the same piece of bread. I can assume the same piece of bread in the mouth of that mouse. Think a snake takes a dangerous snake we're talking about, or even not. That when they took a piece of bread, went into a hole with chametz in its mouth. I don't need to bring a snake charmer. Those guys who play the flutes and they make the snakes, in trance. But it's here to remove it. That's not a requirement.
That's a comment problem.
Yeah. So you're saying it's a dangerous snake now. It's not a dangerous snake. Put your hand in, pull it out.
You know what the snake is. You see a snake went in, you don't know.
Right. You can assume maybe it's dangerous. Right. Yeah. Okay.
That's my guess. I don't know.
But good. The Gemara is something about it. I don't remember the details.
You want to get rid of the snake?
Imagine a Rav. Rav's a smart Rav. What does your wife say? All right.
It's your house,
Right. Kizayis chametz u'shmei koder. If you have a kizayis of chametz on a very high beam, the chayv and ois lahav is still meduda. You have to bring a ladder and take it down. Even though you can't reach it. So what's the chash? I'm going to forget it's Pesach and climb up there and get it. Shapam yipo u'shmei koder. Maybe it's going to fall down, and then I'll be enticed to eat it. Hoya chametz a boy. If the chametz is down in the pit, so chametz can fall down. It can't fall up. So you have to bring it up. You can mavatl it in your heart, and that's enough. That's enough. Keep us or
let's stop for 1 second.
Yeah.
If there's a piece of chametz up high, right? Is the problem? Is there a problem that it doesn't mention anything
but
here?
that really you covered by bittul.
The whole bikah has nothing to do with the isra of baliro balmotzi, which is menachet, right?
So if there's two reasons for the bittul, right? I thought
There's two reasons. One is
either he wasn't genuine with his bittul, or if he was, he might eat it. There's another opinion. Right, yeah. There's another opinion that bittul b'chal only helps for chametz you don't know about.
This one you know it's there.
If you know it exists, you can't be battled. I don't think I'm holds like that. That's the Rambam. But
you can't be battled.
Yeah.
That you know that's
right.
there.
No, so the Rambam, I don't think holds like that. But I'm just saying, yeah. So the Pasha's two reasons are your bittel's not going to be sincere, right? In battle chametz, you have a beer factory, or you own Levi Gumbo. All the chametz my bakery is bought. It's how genuine can you be with that, right? It's
That's why we sell things
right.
There's people that don't sell their chametz.
That's also true. Right. That was the Alter Rebbe's vote. The Alter Rebbe, based on the shame that the Shach and Taz didn't have access to, that the Alter Rebbe didn't have, they found them in Shemus. The Alter Rebbe made certain kulas about selling chametz, even chametz gomer that even chametz ben.
Because they said the original header for selling chametz was only made for businessmen, not for house owners. Every last drop had to be cleaned out.
Right.
All right. Sorry.
Says Vav, a block of yeast, and yeast is not, you can't eat yeast. It's you're not allowed to own it, but it's not edible for you.
But the thing is, that's all it is. A saor is not edible. It's a starter.
Right. Now, so that therefore you designate it as something to sit on. It's very, very hard. You're not going to eat it. In Toch Paneva tip, if you cover the surface with plaster, it's considered bottle, but you keep it on Pesach as a chair. But
why should it be like that if it's the rises that
Chametz Nuksha.
so
No,
once
but he used the word Sa'ar in Torah.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You're not
Yeah, but
allowed.
this-
You have to
okay,
destroy Sa'ar.
so once you cover the plaster, your bittel is completely genuine. So therefore, there's no
Yeah.
reason not to keep it. It's basically as if it's
You
basically,
buried it.
Essentially, it's buried. Yeah, basically.
Okay, that's
right. Right. But
And it's also not real chametz. We learned yesterday.
No, that's the whole point.
There's tarubas chametz. There's chametz nuksha.
so Sam is a problem. Sam is a problem. But this became so hard. It's not.
It's not.
So it's ruined Sa'ar.
Right.
It's ruined.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. That's by putting the plaster over it. Exactly. But if you have right, so that was that's the teruvus. But okay, yeah. If you have dough in the cracks of an eating bowl, right? So it's not is that considered significant? In yesh, so to have to destroy that, can I just forget about it? It's like not important. In yesh, now again, nowadays we don't eat chametz on the floor. We don't eat chametz in the but back then food was scarce, so these things were very relevant. In yesh, if you have a kazayis collected in one place of the eating bowl, it's like hard chametz that's stuck to the side. High Levi, you have to destroy it. If not a kazayis in one place, it's just scattered specks all over the place. Then if it was meant to, like it's like cement, kind of like pulling the cracks together, glue. Listen to everybody neck about to stop up a hole. That it's minimal size makes it irrelevant. You allow if that's not the purpose of it. If it's the small pieces, but you pack it very small, but it's not for that purpose. The high Levi, even though it's less than kazayis, you have to get rid of it. All you shnei, so in other words, not to have to get rid of it, it has to be inside less than a kazayis, inside for the purpose of glue. All you boy shnei chatzoy zeis b'shem the you have two half zeis in different places. The chol shel batzik name, but they're ultimately attached by a string of dough. Need to be observed. If theoretically, if you would take that string, they would come up with it to stay attached. Then you have to destroy it because it's considered one big kazayis. If not, then you have to destroy them. They're considered like the regular case of less than a kazayis in one place, which is used for glue. And the fact there's a tiny string connecting them, it's not
What
significant.
did we learn yesterday about mashal? If it's not by chametz, it's together of mashal. It doesn't have to be a shir kazayis.
So that's in terms of achila and hana. In terms of beer, it's only kazayis. Yeah.
And then another thing, a chatzizayis and a tera, you would have chatzizayis is also in a tera.
For achila and for hana. Yeah, but in terms of beer, yeah, right. Beer. If you have, yeah. Okay. So right. That's nice. Ba'med, when this is applied, ba'areva, an eating bowl, because an eating bowl, the food is still considered to be somewhat possibly edible. About bias, if it's the house and you have pieces of dough stuck to the wall or around or around the house, or. Right, it sounds like Dr. Stowe stuck to the house in a similar situation, right? Stuck to a crack or no, sorry, whether it's stuck to a crack or not, just pieces of crumbs of bread around the house. So, even though if you would take that one string, the two pieces of dough are not going to go together. You have to destroy it because there's something in the house they would be collected together. Okay, so if I said this wrong. Okay, the house is more likely to eat the chametz because in the house. It's possible that different pieces, crumbs of chametz will come together in a collection. You bring together to create a kazayis. Therefore, you have to destroy the chametz even if it's less than kazayis. You have to collect even if it's less than kazayis, but they're connected by a string of dough. Then you do have to destroy it. That's considered like one big kazayis. If you have a half kazayis, however, in the first floor, half kazayis in the second floor. So kazayis and bayis, kazayis b'chsadro. You have a half kazayis in the house, a half kazayis on the porch, if half the kazayis in one room and half the kazayis in the other room inside of it, in other words, you have basically, you don't have a piece of kazayis of chametz in your house, you have less than kazayis in various places. Since they're stuck to the walls or the beams or the floor, you don't have to revive it. You in your house, that's sufficient because you don't have a piece of kazayis in one place, but it's not a kazayis in one place, that's only less than kazayis, and it's like stuck to the wall, stuck into a place you're not going to want to eat it, then al pidin, you're not mechuyev to destroy it. Valter adds on that that's the technical din, the yidin are b'nei kadesha, and they're more macher, and they destroy the chametz wherever they can. As we well know. Yud Zayin. Hamaskir bayis, stam ba'arasa. So the Rambam is going to tell us the next halacha that if I'm renting a house to you for Pesach, I'm going to rent my house to you. Who has been in my house? Me or you? So whoever has the keys when night falls in Daled, he must do the b'diga. That's what's the same halacha says. So therefore, hamaskir zayin, hamaskir bayis stam ba'arasa. Someone rents a house on Arba Asa. I can assume that you checked it already. I don't have to check it. I'm not going to check it. I can assume you checked it. But if, however, there's an assumption based on whatever it is, I know that you did not check. If and a woman or a child says we checked it, hey, in the morning you can trust them. Everyone's belief when it comes to Chametz. Everyone is cautious to do the b'dika. I feel nashim, even women, slaves, and children. What's the part with women? Women are believed to say this is means cautious. It's not cautious. They believe to all dinim. So the part is over here, but because Chametz, you might think that they're not familiar with the details of halachas, they're not familiar with the it's a tircha. So that's why.
I can understand. Why should we beer? How do they have the power of beer?
If a woman says she checked for chametz,
No, but beer.
No, we're not going to check. We're not checking for chametz. Just check it as long as it wasn't checked. This is a muffin to right?
So the beer and the bdika is like one concept.
So, good question. We're here talking about the b'dika, and the question is this case where is this b'dika because I didn't do bittul, I'm not going to do bittul, or is it b'dika because even on the bittul, on top of that chametz didn't check? So the pasha is talking about the b'dika that are abundant over here. That's the truth.
That's
it's
a
b'dika material. It could be you can't trust a shop. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because to be mevatel, first of all, you have to have bios of the thing to be mevatel.
Right.
So
right.
They don't have no bios.
Right. But let's say, for example, if you have a house, you went down different times, went down for Pesach, and the guy says, "My wife checked the chametz." Is that good enough? The answer over here is yes.
Okay.
If someone rents a house to his fellow, if before the landlord gives over the keys to the tenant, the night of the 14th falls, the landlord now has to check. He can't say, "I didn't check it, here, take it, go check it." The landlord is able to check. If, however, he gives him the keys and then afterwards night falls in the dalit, then the renter has to check. This is interesting. I read the house for Pesach. He told me to check for chametz. It turns out you made a mistake. It's not checking chametz. So now I'm coming back to you and I'm saying, listen, you know what? I change my mind. I don't want to do the tircha. I'm going back to give back my money. I'm leaving. The renter has to check. The is not considered a mistaken deal. I feel in the soft, even in a place where you usually pay people to check. A mitzvah, he's doing a mitzvah. Therefore, we assume like Yid likes to do a mitzvah. So if I come and I say, I change my mind, I don't want this tircha, I'm lying and I'm going back because I decided the color of the wall is not good enough or whatever it is. We can't use that as a legitimate reason to go back on the deal. Use test. I'm a Vorish by Yom B'Shah, someone who leaves town by ocean or he goes in a caravan, as opposed to like Stamosay going in a wagon trip. These are complicated trips. Within 3 days of Pesach, he has to check for chametz. He's planning on coming back before Pesach. I'll check you down. No, we worry maybe the ship's going to get sidetracked. You can come back after Pesach in an hour to Shkia. You have to check it for you.
It's very relevant today. When somebody goes away for Pesach, a lot of people they leave the house in the same state. They tell them no, you have to be buying the house.
So that's
when we sold it.
No, that's the whole story. Here, the guy's coming back to Pesach.
Oh, he's coming back.
He's going after Purim for 2 weeks to Eretz Yisrael by ship. Yeah. So he'll say, I'm going to come back to Gimel. I'll check that night when I come back. Nah, you can't rely on that. Maybe you're going to get 500, so therefore you have to check it before he goes.
That's right.
If he leaves before Purim, before 3 days, he doesn't have to check. In that case, we can assume that if he gets a lunch, he'll come back in time anyways. Now, if he does intend to, so that's where he leaves before 30 days, and he is not planning on coming back to Pesach. If he does plan on coming back before Pesach, then he has to check for chametz for achachitz and afterwards go, even if he's leaving more than 3 days. Pesach means he's going to come back Erev Pesach mamash before Shkia or after Shkia. He's not going to have time to destroy the chametz. If he doesn't intend to return, he does not have to search for chametz. So it comes out
if it's in Pech, or in all cases it has to be there.
Right, exactly.
If it's before Shloshim Yom, depending on
that depends. So within 30 days you have to check always, because you're ready. You have to do choshesh for right. Exactly. Thank you. If it's within 30 days of Pesach, the check because already says now we have to start consuming Pesach and Yom to check inside the mitzvah of Dikas Chometz. If it's before 30 days, depends if you're planning on coming back before Pesach, then you have to check. If not, you don't have to. But then someone who is not leaving, but he's making his kitchen or he's resigning into he's making his house to a storage unit. If it's within 30 days of Pesach, he has to check for chametz. He brings in all his storages, hay, whatever he's storing in there. After he checks, if it's before 3 days before Pesach, so before Purim basically, If he has in mind before Pesach arrives to clean out the storage stuff and go back to living there, he has to check it and then afterwards make it to a storage unit. Because this way, when he takes out, you have to make sure when he takes out the hay before Pesach to live there again, it has to be ready to live in case it's Mamash Erev Pesach. If he does not intend to clear it out before Pesach, so that's only after Pesach. So when Pesach comes, it's not going to be used. And so he gets to check it. There's maybe he brought chametz in there, and now his hay is there. The fact that it has all this covered for all this produce is considered a beer, and therefore he's not going to check for chametz.
Good, thank you very much.
On the bottom right hand side.
Okay.
Well,